Can we agree that both insurance companies and contractors both commit fraud?
It's the homeowner should be complaining to me about that, not the contractor.
What kind of fraud do you see?
I got one of a guy pushing his thumb on a garage door to create hail damage right before the adjuster got there.
Why the trend is longer response time and higher denials?
Adjusters should be properly trained.
Let's talk about John Houghtaling.
Every state should duplicate our statute and enact it in their state.
And what's your take on Xactimate? Do we need it?
And I'm confident in the next 12 months, we will see fines.
Steven, for those people in our audience who don't know who you are, what kind of lawyer are you?
So what I tell people when I meet someone here at a bar and they say, what type of law do you practice? I tell people that I do catastrophe litigation. And they'll say, wow, what does that mean? And I say, I represent the insurance industry in any type of major disaster situation. I get involved with helping the insurance industry deal with any types of issues that arise after disasters.
So you're helping insurance companies to pressure contractors?
Absolutely not. I am helping insurance companies ensure that they pay claims timely and fairly. And that's what every insurance company wants. Insurance companies don't like to get sued. They want to pay claims quickly and fairly and get them done. Now the dispute between me and contractors is what is fairly.
How big is your firm and how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so we're about a 100 lawyer law firm. We have lawyers across the country in about 10 different offices. I've got 29 lawyers in my Dallas office. Every single one of us do exactly what I do. I joined this firm, Zell LLP. We were Zell before ZellPay came along. That screwed everything up. But I started at this firm right out of law school. I worked for a judge for a year at the Texas Supreme Court, came to Zell in 1992, and I've been doing the same thing ever since.
Many people know you by, many people in the roofing industry know you by for debating John Houghtaling on Win the Storm conference. I want to hear the backstory. How did you end up on that stage in the first place?
Yeah, I got a call, and I don't remember who it was from. I got a call, and they said, hey, we have this Win the Storm conference, and Anthony Delmedico wants to debate you on the main stage. And my view is I will talk to anybody at any time about these issues. I believe this communication is good. So I flew out there, went on the main stage, debated Anthony the first year. It was a great debate. And then after the first year, they invited me back, but they threw Houghtaling at me. They said, okay, now you got to debate Houghtaling.
How did that go?
It goes great. I get a word in about every 10 minutes. I get to say something. John talks the rest of the time. But no, it's great. And I really value that event because it gives me a forum in front of 5,000 storm chasing contractors, right, to talk about our views. Right? Look, I'm not a really
it's more
bad
like
guy.
2,000.
2,000, whatever it is. Anthony says 5, maybe it's 2. But what I do know is that our debate is his most widely attended event at the conference. That big hall he has, I go to some of the other speakers and there's some people here and there. I look out when Houghtaling and I debate and it's full. And that makes me happy because I know they want to hear, okay, what's the real story on what's going on with Badger? What are the hot issues? And I like that.
Did you get a lot of pushback from contractors, a lot of hate maybe, a lot of like nasty comments?
It's interesting. People send me what's written about me online. They call me Darth Vader. I got all that stuff going on. But what I also find is when I walk out after the debate, I get guys come up, they say, hey, thank you for doing that. I understand your position better now. I'm going to try to do a better job on this issue. Or they'll want to take selfies with me. So it really kind of is a love-hate relationship. But that's good. You know, they hear my story. They appreciate that. I'm hoping they think that, okay, he's not an asshole. He's a guy doing his job, just wanting to make sure that people are not ripping off his insurance companies.
Have you watched our interview with the Houghtaling?
I did watch your interview with John about deductibles. That's what prompted me to reach out and say, hey, I got a story on this issue also.
Okay, let's hear your story. You didn't agree with it? We call it Trojan horse, I believe. Yeah, that's how he explained it.
You call it a Trojan horse, and it's not a Trojan horse at all. In fact, Houghtaling's argument is what I would call a straw man. He's creating an issue just to knock it down when there is no such issue. The Texas deductible statute exists. because RCAT, the Roofing Contractors Association of Texas, and North Texas Roofing, their members kept coming to me all the time saying, Badger, we're getting screwed by these deductible waivers. And I said, let's work together and end it. So the deductible statute does not exist because of any nefarious insurance industry plan. This was a combination of me and the roofing contractor trade groups working together to do something good at the end of the day for consumers. And the reason it's good for consumers is that my phone rings all the time with homeowners ripped off by bad contractors. If you Google roofing contractor fraud Texas, guess whose name shows up everywhere? Mine does. So homeowners call me and they say, I got ripped off by a bad contractor who took my insurance money. And I always say, what happened? Well, they knocked on my door, promised me a free roof because I don't have to pay my deductible, and then they took my money and never came back. And that was an issue. And as you know, the reputable contractors who tried to collect deductibles couldn't compete with the deductible leaders. So we came together to pass a law to stop that practice, make a level playing field for all contractors, to stop the deductible leaders who were ripping people off. And we can talk more about why that happens. And there's inherent insurance fraud whenever you eat a deductible. And we came together to fix a problem. It had nothing to do, nothing, with an insurance industry desire to waive deductibles themselves. The insurance industry, and I promise you this, had no involvement in advocating for that legislation other than putting in a card saying we support it.
I travel all the country. I think I visited over 50 companies this year alone. Every week we go somewhere. And I see quite a few regions in the country where we can say that the trend is longer response time from insurance companies, higher denial rates. In the state of Illinois, it's epidemic. There's thousands of contractors who will tell you that State Farm is not what it used to be in Allstate. It's just denial. They just cannot pass this hard wall where you're talking about people who've been in business for decades and they've never seen it before. So how can you explain it? Do you see the pattern that insurance companies are toughening up? Even better players like USSA used to be good, responsive, you could call them, and now it's impossible to get. So why the trend is longer response time and higher denials?
Wow, there's 10 different issues built into that, isn't there? I will agree with one statement, and that it's getting tougher. All right, now we will disagree as to the cause as to why it's getting tougher, but my view that I see is that insurance companies are getting tougher. And I attribute it to the abuse that they're getting with meritless claims and abusive advocates for policyholders. All right, and I see that. So slower response times, I can't speak to that. Insurance companies have a duty to respond timely. All right, if they're slow, then that's wrong. Okay, I absolutely agree. If an insurance company is denying a claim that is covered and should be paid, that's wrong also, right? They should pay covered claims. The area of disagreement where I think the core of your question is, what about these disputed claims? And that just comes to the thing we've always been fighting about, right? What is hail damage? What is wind damage? And could begin with the question of, wait a minute, why are the contractors in that role advocating to begin with about what's hail damage and complaining about the insurance company conduct? All right, they're not a party to my contract with my homeowner. It's the homeowner should be complaining to me about that, not the contractor. So that's a whole nother issue we could talk about. But look, I hear it all the time. I hear about training. All right, adjusters should be properly trained. Okay, and I recognize and I've heard and I've seen some legitimate complaints about training. I get it. But overall, I really think what you're dealing with are an insurance industry that's responding to the dramatic increase in the number of debated and questionable claims that they're seeing.
I want to elaborate a little bit on deductibles. When and how deductibles become a controversial topic. For most contractors, it's black and white. For good contractors, you have to pay it, it's law. I don't know if it's, in Texas at least, when you break the law, you should go to jail or you should pay a fine. Is that a prosecutable offense in a sense. Like why there's so much controversy about deductibles? Why it's not black and white yet?
Ask Mr. Houghtaling that, right? It should be black and white. And that's why we passed the statute to make it black and white. It has always been illegal in Texas.
Did it help? Do you see that more contractors are paying deductible than not paying?
Oh, it's a night and day difference in Texas now. Every state should duplicate our statute and enact it in their state. We have greatly fixed the problem. Have we totally fixed it? No. There are some contractors who believe that their only competitive advantage is to still waive a deductible. And they're coming up with elaborate schemes to try to do it still.
Let me ask you this, you're an attorney. I said it for years. I don't care what kind of discount you're giving to the homeowner. If you put a yard sign and you call it a marketing package for $1,000, you're still waiving the deductible. If you're given a gift of, I don't know, value of deductible, it's a gift, it's a bribe, you're still covering deductible in different form. But in the courtrooms, can you go after it? Can you say, well, you could not do it? Because it's a creative way to cover deductible. We see that's happening. What's your answer to that? How do you combat that?
Yeah, so we've tried to combat it a couple of different ways. Let me begin with this. I don't want any contractor to go to prison for waiving a deductible. Sure. Right? That's not the intent. Even though it's illegal, no one wants that. But what I do want them to do is stop. Right? And so our objective has been, how do we get them?
But for I'll give you an example. Back in, I'm from Russia, and for years, like nobody wanted to put seatbelt on because the fine for that was like 2 rubles, whatever. You increase the fine, so now you don't put a seatbelt on, it's like 10,000 rubles, whatever. Now it hurts. So is it a fine? Like, and we're not talking about sending contractors to jail, but what are the fines? It has to hurt to do the wrong thing. Otherwise, everybody's going to be doing it.
Yeah, so 2 things we're doing now. One is we've put a group together of reputable contractors, some other advocates, the NICB, the National Insurance Crime Bureau. We've got a group now where people, and we'll be launching it soon in Texas, a website where people can submit information on deductible waivers. We're going to put that together and send it off to the TDI and the Texas AG. They have authority to administratively sanction contractors who do it. So hit them in the pocketbook. Hit them with a $15,000 fine.
What's happening right now? If you get caught to waive deductible today, do we have a fine in place?
There is the AG and the TDI have administrative authority to fine contractors for that conduct.
Have anybody been fined?
Not since the new statute has been enacted, but they have the authority, and I'm confident in the next 12 months we will see fines.
Because I feel like, what OSHA have done, you're not wearing harness, you're not putting a letter up. There, I remember years ago, it's $700 fine not to properly attach the letter to the house, to the gutter, and people and you have to learn how to set up a letter. If not, it's $700. There's a picture, you send it, there's a fine. And guess what? It didn't fix all the problems, but at least, you get that fine 1 or 2 times. You're gonna start doing it. You waive 1 or 2 deductibles, you get $3,000-$4,000 fine. Why we have a law and we don't have punishment for breaking the law?
Yeah, and I agree. And it was really frustrating before the statute because there was no enforcement at all. Now we've created that enforcement mechanism with fines, but we've also done something else. We added a really cool provision to the statute that says an insurance company does not have to pay RCV holdback until reasonable proof is provided that the deductible's been paid. So really, we've given the insurance companies a way to enforce this and say, okay, you want your RCV holdback? Show us that check from the homeowner that it paid its deductible. That's really cool, isn't it? Because the contractor now knows that if I'm not going to get that RCV holdback because I waived the deductible, he has to stop because he needs that holdback.
Yeah. Steven Badger, out of all places, we're in Brewery, Minnesota. He's going to give us a tour. Apparently, he's a business partner here. A couple of weeks ago when we were arranging this interview, I said, do I have to come to you or you can come to Minneapolis? He's like, Dmitry, I have a business in Minnesota. I'm like, sounds good to me. Steven, what are we doing here?
Well, welcome to Urban Growler. We've been in business now about 8 years, and we were one of the first breweries in Minnesota, and we were in fact the first brewery in Minnesota to have a full restaurant in the brewery. So most breweries, have a little space and they have a food truck on Saturdays. But not us, as you'll see in a minute. We have a full kitchen, and so it's been a lot of fun. Even though I live in Dallas, I get up here as much as I can to hang out and I'm the old guy who stands behind the bar and pours beer, and they say, just let him do it. He's one of the owners.
How did you ended up owning a brewery?
Yeah, it's a great story. I have always said I want to own a bar in retirement, probably up in Park City, Utah, where I have a house. And one day, that guy over there, Bob, who was the CFO of my law firm, he called me up and said, "Hey, Badge, my sister-in-law," everyone calls me Badge, my sister-in-law and her partner want to open a brewery. But they don't have the financing to do it. They need somebody who will help them invest in it. So I flew up here, I met them, I fell in love with them, and voila, here we are now, probably almost 10 years later.
Did you do it for profit, or is it just a hobby and something for fun?
You know, I love Deb and Jill, and I love their entire concept, what they're doing for the community. So I thought, I'll put money in it. I believe in them. If I make money, great. If not, it's just fun to be part of. Yeah.
I think it would be absolutely wrong for me to do this tour without beer in my hands. So.
Excellent.
But see, contractors are so creative. They can write the check on the way back, cashier's check, cash. Hey, you write me this check because I need it for improvement. Like, here's check for the same value.
Dimitri, we've seen some of that already. All right, I cannot stop the guy who is going to be a real criminal and try to circumvent.
You have to have a homeowner on your side.
I have had homeowners give me affidavits that says the contractor told me, write me this check so I can give it to the insurance company, and then I'm going to tear it up after. So we have that information. We know who's doing that. And as I said, within the 12 months, we're going to see contractors get in trouble. And I hope that will stem it even more. But the good news is that we're changing the culture in Texas. Everybody used to think, okay, I got a hail claim, I don't have to pay my deductible. That's not the case anymore, right? Contractors now can go out and tell the homeowner, here's the statute, you have to pay your deductible, and we're changing that culture, and that's good. So this has nothing to do with insurance companies, and we can talk about that issue also.
I think the biggest problem here, and it's elephant in the room, and nobody wants to really talk about it yet, but the way the country is going, we keep printing money, and 70% of population cannot write $1,000 check. So I can understand and be very sympathetic to contractors. When you have a homeowner in front of you and you know they don't have $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, like, you know it. It's not doing right or wrong. It's like people are poor. They live paycheck to paycheck.
But Dimitri, we addressed that issue. We anticipated that problem. How? Now that people have to pay their deductibles, they're not going to have the money to pay that 1 or 2% deductible. So we put language in the statute that says one of the ways of providing reasonable proof of payment of the deductible is to provide a legitimate financing agreement. So we figured contractors could finance deductibles or hire companies who will finance that. And voila, a company arose called Fund My Deductible, FMD, and they partner with contractors. And when a homeowner says, I don't have enough money to pay my deductible, they hand them and they finance it. Right, and I know there's also financing models out there to finance the entire job and include the deductible. So we anticipated that problem because this is not an anti-consumer statute. It is a pro-consumer statute, and we did everything we could to help consumers in this situation to pay their deductible, get their roof put on, not be brought into an insurance fraud scheme, and get their roof done, because that's all we want to have happen.
Let's name all the players in a storm restoration industry. We have public adjusters, we have umpires, we have attorneys. Who else do we have?
We have appraisers, we have general contractors, we have storm consultants. We got all kinds of people now, and I speak a lot. And one of my first slides in every presentation, I say all of these people have found a way to inject themselves into the claims process for their own personal gain. It used to be the insured, the contractor, and the insurance company, right? And the typical hail claim, that was it. But now we got all these other people, right? We have the consultants and the appraisers and the umpires and PAs all want to bleed off a little bit of money into their pockets because of the claim process.
I would push back a little bit, and I would say that demand creates supply. Like, all of these people, and like, you have 1,000 public adjusters in Texas, they would not be there if they didn't have jobs to fight. I mean, maybe it was born because of the bad practices of insurance companies in the first place.
And look, there is a legitimate role for a public adjuster in the claim process. I always say that. I support the public adjusting profession, 100%. Okay, if there are building owners or homeowners who don't have the time or the ability to put their claim together, there is absolutely a role for a PA. Of course, there's also a role for attorneys. When insurance companies do bad things, attorneys should be there to hold them accountable. But what I find, besides that situation where they're truly needed, and you know this, Dimitri, what happens 6 months after a storm? They troll the neighborhood, right, knocking on doors, not only in the area where it did hail, but in those little fringe areas close enough because they can throw the CoreLogic report out there and say they're within a mile. All right, they're creating issues not to help Mrs. Smith fix a roof that was damaged and deal with a wrongly denied claim. All right, that's not what those roofs out there outside the hail zone are about. All right, they are trolling to create claims so they can make money off the process, and that's wrong.
But that takes place, 100% agree, but we also have to agree that, and my audience, comment below, guys, if you have seen this scenario. I've seen it in my years. I've been a contractor for 70 years. You have neighborhood. Every single roof is getting replaced. You have 2 State Farm houses next to each other. You have 2 different adjusters. This one is getting approved and built, and next one is getting denied next to each other. And the only difference is different adjusters. How can you explain that?
I can't, okay? If in that hypothetical, if they have the same shingle,
but it happens.
And it's wrong.
And sometimes
that I agree.
And sometimes it could be like neighborhood of 300 homes, and you could see, 50 homes that don't get roofs, and they would be all from the same firm. It could be like State Farm, and they're just not buying roofs where everybody else is. We also have that problem. And now those 50 homes will need public adjusters, appraisals. What's your take on the appraisal process and appraisals?
Appraisal process is fantastic. All right, it is a way to amicably and quickly resolve disputed claims. It's been in our policies in Texas for 150 years, so it's good. The problem with appraisal now is that it is a non-judicial dispute resolution process, no ethical guidelines, no rules of procedure, and it is ripe for abuse. And the biggest issue right now, if you ask me, hey Badger, what's the biggest issue in the insurance industry claims process right now? It's appraisal. It is being abused heavily by these same players who want to inject themselves into the process, and they say, okay, if I gotta go to court, I got a judge I got to deal with. But if I can dump this disputed claim in appraisal, Katie bar the door, I can do whatever the hell I want. Right? And the worst abuses we're dealing with right now are in appraisal.
How do you combat it?
Well, here's how I combated one recently. I just sued the appraiser and the umpire and the building owner for fraud. Yeah.
Okay, did you win?
It's pending right now. It's the first time I ever took that action. Because I don't want to sue building owners. I don't want to sue appraisers.
Can you give me the back end story, what happened with the job and what kind of...
Sure, and it's still a pending lawsuit, so I got to be a little careful. Sure. But it was a big church. We measured the claim at $1 million in roof damage. They said that there was $11 million in damage. $11 million, mostly roofs, and $40,000 in interior damage.
What kind of roof or...
Big church, metal roof, TPO roof, built-up roof, and tile roof. And they said all of them are damaged. We disagreed and said only some are damaged. But key is that they then sued us. All right, they sued us, filed a lawsuit against us. Their litigation expert said that there's $11 million in damage to the roofs and $40,000 of interior damage. So we litigate that issue, okay, for a year.
40,000 is not a lot.
No, they had a few leaks. Their own expert, an estimator, said, yeah, there's a few leaks here and there, 40 grand, that's it. After a year of litigation, the lawyers who were representing the church decided, oh, we don't want to litigate anymore, and they demanded appraisal. Well, first off, that's backwards, right? You're supposed to go to appraisal first. That's the whole point of appraisal. But for some reason, after a year of litigation, they demanded appraisal. They went to appraisal. During the appraisal process, while the 2 appraisers were talking about the umpire, they didn't go to the federal court to get an umpire. They ran off to a state court 250 miles away without giving notice to the insurance company and got a unilateral umpire appointment of a friendly umpire appointed without telling the insurance company. Then they said, here's the umpire, and let's go appraise now. The insurance company said, no, we don't want any part of this. And they refused to go to appraisal, and the appraiser and the umpire, the appraiser for the insured and the umpire issued a $56 million appraisal award. 56 million, including over $30 million in interior damage. I got hired at that point. All right, I wasn't involved in all that other stuff. And after I saw what happened, I gave everybody a fair chance to back off and say, okay, we made a mistake. And when they didn't back off and they tried to enforce the award, I sued them for fraud because it's wrong. And you know who's on my side? It's supporting me in this case? All the reputable players in the industry. Because as I said earlier, right, about the insurance companies getting tougher, that's because they're dealing with this type of bullshit. And it is. And they've had to hire me and spend $1 million now during this case defending this on a simple roof claim that should have been resolved quickly and easily. And if they wanted to go to appraisal, they could have, and it would have been done. So yeah, I get animated about this one because those issues are the ones that are making this industry harder for all of us.
Who is suing you? Lawyers, church lawyers, or contractors lawyers?
Well, I would hope that in every situation it is the insureds. In this one, it would be the church, the insured's lawyers. Okay, contractors should not have lawyers in my state, at least. In Texas, we do not allow AOBs. There's no assignment of benefits in Texas, so I never have a situation where it's the contractor's lawyers. But do I know how these building owners end up with certain lawyers? Of course, I know contractor X always refers to homeowner to lawyer Y, and I know that this contractor always refers them to that guy. We see those relationships, and that's okay as long as there's no illegal conduct going on. It's okay to refer people to, but Dimitri, what really gets me is that this lawsuit, the one I'm talking about, is not about making the church whole. This church did not sustain $56 million in damage. In fact, their new expert just admitted that there's only 9 leaks in the entire church relating to this hailstorm.
It went from 11 million to 56 million.
It went from 11 to 56, and that's why we sued them for fraud, because that's wrong. And what's really cool is that this building is the old St. Paul, Minnesota Police Department horse stables. So you look at the cool arches here. Long ago, the horses would come in with the police officers, and these were their stables. So for years, this was just a crappy warehouse storing miscellaneous junk. Deb and Jill saw it and said, this space is going to be perfect. And over the past decade since they came here, the city has developed around them and come to them. So they had a vision.
And now Badge is serving them beer.
That's right, now here. So now we're in the brewing area. All the beer ends up fermenting here in the various tanks on this side. This is where the beer will sit for a while. And then what's really cool is that these are actually chilling tanks. So the beer actually chills here, and it is ready to serve. And the beer that they serve here in the brewery doesn't come out of a keg. It actually comes out of these large tanks right here.
Do you guys sell it to like restaurants and stores and bars?
Yeah, there's a really good market to put beer out to restaurants and bars in kegs. We do a lot of kegs. But canning, a few years ago, we expanded and built a canning operation. And we can right here. This is all the technology and all the chemistry is over here. And then this is the canning operation. You'll see the cans right here. And then they go up, they come through the canning line, they come through here where they're filled. They're filled right here, and then right here they're weighed. And if they don't weigh the right amount, they get taken off the line. Those are the ones that I take back to Dallas with me whenever I come visit. And then the full ones come through here, and then they get to the end of the line here. And then this is a labeling machine. So we can order blank cans, as you saw, and then the labels get put on for whatever we're labeling. It makes it really easy because then we can just buy one type of can. Now we do buy some that are actually pre-printed, but most of them are already just no label, and we put them on. And then it comes down here, and they basically finish up right here, and voila, there you have it. My favorite is this, the Cowbell Cream Ale. You don't see many cream ales out there. People say, oh, what's a cream ale? Is it milky? It's not. It's just a light, really drinkable beer. I call it a porch pounder. You know, you can sit outside and drink. This one's really cool. This is a Peachy Queen Milkshake IPA. We are a woman-owned brewery. Our main primary owners is a gay couple, Deb and Jill, and they are really involved in the local gay community. Wonderful people, and they did this for Pride Week. Peachy Queen Milkshake IPA. Really fun. Of course, if you're going to have a brewery, you gotta have lots of beer. So all the kegs that go out, lots of cans.
I always say that numbers don't lie, and we already recognize that numbers of PA, like third-party players, are growing. And with that number, we also have a growing number of settlements. Like I just interviewed Chad Wilson, who beat State Farm like 3 or 4 times in court, like in federal court. So if we see this increase not only in firms but in revenue, like why this is happening, like why insurance companies are not learning, like because everybody attacks insurance process. It's denials, it's approval rating, and stuff like that. So let's talk about it. Why do we have so many, like we do have a trend of insurance companies also losing in court on denial claims.
Who told you that?
Well, I see that more and more companies are suing and winning.
And I see more and more companies suing and losing.
Okay.
I mean, I could give you, yeah, I could give you.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, there was one last week where a prominent Houston lawyer took one to trial against an insurance company and lost, got thrown out. And the interviews with the jurors after was, this is ridiculous. I mean, the expert was clearly just making stuff up. And in fact, after the Hidalgo County hailstorms we had down in South Texas, I think the last numbers when we were counting was like 11 of those matters of the thousands of hail claims went to trial, and the insurance industry won 9 of the 11. So did Chad maybe get a couple of hits against State Farm? Perhaps. He's a good lawyer and he may have beat him on some. But I would not say, I've not seen a trend where we're losing trials more often. Now, your first question was, are insurance companies, is there a trend that they're denying more claims and behaving badly? I hope not, all right? Because insurance companies don't want to get sued. They really don't like to get sued. And I really want to retire and not be the hail guy anymore. Okay, I'd like to do something else. I used to be a subrogation lawyer. I'd love to do that again. So we need to fix this problem. There's always going to be a percentage, a small percentage of disputed claims, but that used to be 1%, right? 1% of all property damage claims would end up in litigation before. Now it's somewhere between 5 and up to 40% after some storms, depending upon the geographic location. And I would propose to you that that's not because of the insurance companies changing how they do things. It's because of all these people who have injected themselves into the process, who are creating disputes. And the insurance companies are fighting back. And do they settle most of them? Yes. Do some go to trial? Yes. Do they lose some? Of course. That's the process.
But it's very hard to sue insurance company. And I would argue that most contractors don't sue, we can't, but homeowners don't. Even if you have AOB or not, but most homeowners, they look at the insurance company actually as a friend, and they don't want to sue, and they take it at the face value. And I've met too many homeowners where after denial, they kind of settle, even if it's incompetence of adjuster. Let's talk about John Houghtaling comment on deductibles and insurance covering deductibles, and also another player in place who is agency that helps insurance companies like MedSky, like third party that helps with the claims and with the work. What's your take on those, and can those waive deductibles?
Yeah, so, and I say this at every time I speak to a contractor group, and everyone moans in the audience, but insurance companies don't waive deductibles. Okay, insurance companies have a contract with the policyholder, right? And there is a deductible provision in there. If the insurance company chooses not to enforce that provision, just like any other, that's between them and their insured. So they're not a third party stepping into this process. They have the right to do whatever they want with respect to that claim. If they choose not to enforce the deductible, that's their right. That's part of the agreement they have. Now, what their Houghtaling is going to say is that, well, they're doing this because of managed repair programs. Okay, That's a whole different issue. Managed repair programs do exist, and do some insurance companies not enforce their deductibles because of a managed repair? Yeah, they do. I get that, okay? But that's the deal they have with their insured. A contractor may not like it, okay? I'm sorry you don't like it, but that's not your business. This is the deal between the insured and the insurance company. They have the right to do that. If you don't like managed repair, okay, go fight that some other way, all right? But they have the right to do this here. And I will tell you this also about managed repair. I get phone calls every week from homeowners ripped off by bad contractors. Okay? And I said earlier, I get these all the time. I've never gotten a call from a homeowner who said, I've been ripped off by a bad managed repair contractor. Okay, I've never heard that.
So you support it? You support managed repair programs?
I support a managed repair program that is part of a policy. If it is intended to help Mrs. Smith get her roof on quickly and properly, absolutely. Okay, if someone can demonstrate to me, all right, that the roofs are not being put on in compliance with manufacturer and code requirements, then no, I don't support that. I don't support anyone not getting a proper roof. But from what I've seen from managed repair programs or preferred vendor programs is that the insurance company has an incentive to make sure those people do a good job. Because what's going to happen? You know, Dimitri, some lawyer's going to come around and say, okay, that roof wasn't put on right, the insurance company recommended them, and the insurance company is going to get sued. And they don't want to get sued because of a roofer's conduct.
But it's funny you said that insurance companies have incentive to replace it. I would say they have conflict of interest to fix it, because you pay insurance company to insure you, and then they decide to hire someone. Of course, it's going to be in their favor to pay less, not to pay more, to save money. So their incentive is to make more money, not to always do right. Because if they want to cheat, in a sense, like, I'm not saying cheating in a negative way, but cheat to save money, nobody will find out. The homeowner will say, well, insurance company is just doing it. Don't you see the conflict of interest?
I understand what you're saying, but I could argue that that same conflict of interest exists whenever any contractor puts on a roof using insurance proceeds, because he knows that the less drip edge he replaces, and if he doesn't replace the underlayment, he can make more money. So any situation like this where there's insurance proceeds involved, that a fixed amount is being paid by the insurance company, any contractor arguably has that same conflict.
But we're getting paid for what we do. Like if I don't replace the drip edge, I don't bill for it.
Oh, but wait a minute, Dimitri. You and I both know that they still bill for the drip edge, and you and I both know.
And let's talk about construction fraud, fraud by contractors, since we're talking about it. So let's say how enforceable it is. Like if I'm sending invoice to insurance company for something I didn't do, what are the how do you call it? Like what are not the fines, not circumstances. What's the word I'm looking for?
What are the penalties?
Yeah, what are the penalties for the contractor to bill for something you didn't do? Is it a fraud? Is it a false billing?
Absolutely. This is the biggest area of insurance fraud that we've dealt with over the past 8 years.
And I agree with you.
And it's fake RCV holdback invoices. And I'll tell you a real quick story. I got hired by a building owner who called me up and said, Mr. Badger, I think our contractor's cheating our insurance company. I said, wait, you're calling me? God love you. And what we found out was the contractor had submitted a replacement cost estimate or an invoice and said, we're done. The roof cost $2.5 million. And I looked at it and there was $600,000 in that estimate for flute filler. Remove and replace the flute filler. Well, guess what I found out? They didn't remove and replace the flute filler. They left the old flute filler there. And I knew that for a fact because I got the ABC Supply invoices. And there was no flute filler sent to the job. There was everything else. That was an easy $600,000 first-degree felony insurance fraud case because that contractor represented to the insurance company that work was done and it wasn't. And I can button that up and send that to the Texas Department of Insurance Fraud Unit very easily, and they will prosecute those matters. In fact, I have one right now where someone sent in an estimate for $100,000, but they only billed the insured $40,000. The insured paid $40,000, but they sent it $100,000 anyway, hoping the insurance company would pay more. That is another easy fraud. Insurance fraud is a material misrepresentation submitted in support of an insurance claim.
What happened in the first case, 600,000? What are the penalties there?
You know what, the guy came to me and said, Mr. Badger, I made a mistake. I own it. I'm sorry. It'll never happen again. And he shook my hand and told me he wouldn't do it again, and I didn't report it.
Love it.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. You know, now, was I legally required to, arguably? Did I do something wrong by not reporting it? Yeah, because I'm supposed to report insurance fraud. I have a legal obligation to. But I think the guy got carried away, and I think he learned his lesson. I still see him out there. He texts with me once in a while about issues, and I'm hoping, you know, he learned from it. So I'm not a heartless asshole, you know, who I want to just throw roofers in jail. Okay? I want my insurance company clients to pay what is legally owed. And I want them to pay it quickly and fairly. All right? But what gets me really angry is that when people think they're Robin Hood and it's okay to go out there and steal from insurance companies because they're helping Mrs. Smith, that really makes me mad. And when you do that, all right, I'm going to come after you.
Can we agree that both insurance companies and contractors both commit fraud every once in a while? Like they both have ways to commit the fraud in their best interest.
So it raises a great issue that's coming up a lot right now. Where do we draw the line between honest difference of opinion, right, which exists all the time, and fraud? Okay, so is there a gray area in between there? Yes. Have insurance companies in the past at times gone too far? And could what they've done be called fraud? Yes. I mean, what happened after Superstorm Sandy that John loves to talk about? All right, altering reports. That's wrong. An insurance company should never do that. But I will tell you, in my 29 years of representing insurance companies, not one of my clients have I ever seen alter a report. Never. Absolutely not. Now, if they did it, I'd call them out on it and I'd tell them it's wrong. But I've not seen it. So yes, insurance fraud of any type on either side is wrong. But I'm not going to admit that there's a systemic problem with it on my side.
Here's the problem that I see, and I'm just a middleman. At this point, I don't really have horse in the race. I'm just a reporter. I'm trying to get down to it. So we have the line. So you're calling contractors committing fraud every time they try to bill for something they didn't do, right? Materials, labor, or whatever. That's a fraud. We established that. But how would you call insurance adjusters who, you know, I would argue on average underpay claims 30-40%. So if adjuster goes to the job site and, you know, missing items, say, you know, like creates estimate and estimate should be $10,000 and he just, here's my estimate, and it's $7,000. So if a contractor adds $3,000 something he didn't do, he's committing fraud. But when an insurance adjuster saves $3,000 underpaying the claim, how come that is not a fraud?
Sure. So what I would call it is if an insurance adjuster intentionally omits something that he knows should be there, okay, and he intentionally omits it. Oh man, this roof is damaged, but I'm going to say it's not damaged. All right, I would call that a knowing violation of their conduct requirements. So you can call it fraud, or as you know, Dimitri, insurance companies have statutes they have to comply with, the bad faith statutes, right? So an intentional act, intentionally not paying something that they know is covered in Texas, they have to pay penalties, the cost of that item, plus 3 times in penalties.
And it does happen.
And it does happen. They get busted for it. So they have a motivation not to do it because smart lawyers and smart public adjusters will identify it and hold them accountable. And that's why the bad faith statutes are there, to hold insurance companies accountable in that situation. So should they pay claims when they see damage? Of course they should. Yeah. And if they're intentionally not paying something that they know is damaged, that's wrong. I agree with that. But I don't see a systemic problem with that. What I see is a disagreement as to what's damaged. And that's that area in the middle where we have all the disputes.
Steven, when insurance adjuster miss or do not include Xactimate item during the estimated process, is it insurance fraud, greed, negligence, or incompetence?
I would have to call it negligence.
Negligence. You didn't want to call a friend? Negligence. Love it.
I would. Yeah.
But how come it's not a fraud?
If it's intentional, all right, and your question did not include the word intentional. Sure. So if the word if the question said he intentionally excluded it, I would call that fraud. Okay, just like the contractor who intentionally bills for something he doesn't do, that's fraud, and that's wrong.
I'll give you an example. We're in Minnesota. I remember Texas adjuster comes, we have a hail in 2017. And I met adjuster, we have a huge hail, like almost 2 inches. And it was actually my father-in-law house. So I run a company and stepping in to help my sales reps, and I'm meeting this adjuster, looking at the job. It went from 9,000 to 13,000, typical 30-40% increase. And of course he did not put ice and water barrier, nothing. So I asked him, I was like, dude, what is this? It's 9,000, where's ice and water? He's like, well, I'm from Texas, we don't do it. But you're in Minnesota. That's a basic, just like contractors are supposed to bill for what they do, I believe that adjuster, we can't call behavior like that negligence. Like, you're in Minnesota, you know it's a code here, it's just like that. So for me, I'm not saying that guy was trying to commit a fraud, but the way they train, maybe if insurance company not trained their adjuster professionally, how come it's not the same as we are not charging our accountant to bill properly?
Yeah, I agree insurance adjusters should be properly trained. And while I've said I never saw an insurance company of mine intentionally fabricate a report or change a report, on the flip side, have I seen mistakes where they negligently or incompetently left something out? Yes, I see that. All right, and it happens, okay? I wish it didn't, but it does. But fortunately, there's good contractors out there, good public adjusters, who will call insurance companies out. Insurance company will say, you're right. All right, just like supplementing, the whole supplementing world is based upon insurance companies mistakenly leaving things out, or for things identifying or coming up during a job that need to be addressed. I'm okay with supplementing as long as the supplementing is being done by the contractor doing the job. And we got a whole other topic we can talk about, remote supplementing companies.
Let's talk about this one.
We got 15 more minutes, Dimitri?
Sure. So it's one other layer in the whole system, and I think that department, that niche was born also by demand. Because I asked this question probably every single company I ever interviewed, and I said, like, what are the number of insurance companies underpaying? And usually it's 30-40%. If you take 100 claims, I'm talking about just looking for those mistakes. I'm not talking about arguing like it's 30-40%. How can you explain that nationwide it's 30-40% that where it should be and where it is now?
Yeah, and I could make the same argument that nationwide what I see is contractors and public adjusters inflating claims by 30 or 40%. So that's that gray area, Dimitri, where there's just
so if we eliminate them, we'll eliminate the industry. Now contractors make more money, insurance companies just paying them.
I would be tickled pink, all right, if we could come up with a standard roof specification where we all agree this is what has to be done to replace a roof. And I tell you what, all right, if you guys don't put in porta potties, I'll pay drip edge. Okay, or whatever, right? I mean, we figure out some agreement that these are the 13 items or whatever that has.
You don't think we need the porta potties?
Yeah, oh, come on, Mrs. Smith will let you use the bathroom. You know that. But
they're not home.
Well, we all know, but I see an estimate and I know what the filler items are. All right, but we can go into that. Let's talk about your supplementing issue. Okay, contractors who put on roofs should supplement their claims when things were missed or things were identified during the process. What I have a problem with is a job that's done. It's all done. The contractor bundles up the job, ships it out west to somebody who's a professional estimate writer. They add a bunch of new line items into it. Then they send it to the insurance company and misrepresent that they're actually the contractor. And then whatever they can get paid by harassing the insurance adjuster, they take a 30% contingency on it. Okay, that's wrong.
Usually 10%.
10%, whatever it is then, okay? But they're working on a commission. So talk about a conflict of interest, right, Dimitri? All right, a conflict of interest, the more they can supplement, the more they make from the insurance company. All right, that bothers me.
You forgot to add the word, the more they can legitimately supplement.
Yep.
They're not committing fraud. Just like intentional for adjuster. Most supplement companies, they look what's missing because they work with Xactimate, which is what the insurance company. The problem is with the supplement companies is contractors don't like the paperwork. They don't want to learn Xactimate, so they have to rely on people who do it every day. Otherwise, items are being missed, and they work. It's a game, right? Insurance companies play this game. Contractors and supplements.
We call it the Xactimate game.
Yes.
Okay, we call it that.
And what's your take on Xactimate? Do we need it?
No, they should have called it Generalimate. Okay, right? They named it wrong. Okay, Xactimate is whatever you put in, you can get out whatever you want. Okay, so whenever we end up, one of my commercial clients, we end up in a dispute with a contractor, all right, arguing about the cost to replace the roof. I go to 2 reputable roofers, all right, 2 or 3, and I say, tell me what you would charge to put this roof on. All right, and I get a real bid. And these are real roofers. These are real guys, all right, brick and mortar roofers like yourself who put on roofs. And they say, I will do this job for X. All right, and sometimes I like the number. Sometimes I don't like it. But whatever it is, it is. All right, and that's what I owe. So we need a process to figure out what that number is so we don't have to play the Xactimate game. And that process is supposed to be appraisal. Right? But appraisal, as we've talked about, is so screwed up right now that that's not fixing the problem. So I want there to be a way, and I wish we could figure it out, to get to that price so Mrs. Smith can get her roof fixed in the same quick manner as if it was a retail job and no insurance was involved. All right, now you're going to say, but wait a minute, insurance jobs cost more because they got to spend lots of time chasing the insurance company and they got to pay their salesperson. And I hear all that. I don't understand why an insurance job should be priced any different than any retail job.
Well, tell it to insurance company. Tell it to adjuster who demands exactly. Because so many times, I know so many retail contractors don't want to deal with it. And insurance company is forcing you. Like, that's on your end. That's, that's your message to your clients.
I will admit something here, and I know there's insurance companies that aren't going to like it. Okay? But if a contractor gives you a retail bid, all right, and the insurance company writes up its own Xactimate estimate, and those two generally match, why would they need Xactimate from the contractor? We've already measured it at 20 grand. There's a retail contract that says 21,000. You're within spitting distance. Pay the damn $21,000 and let's move on, right? You bet. Okay, but when that retail contract says 60,000 and our Xactimate says 20, I think the insurance company has the right to say, please break that down for me so I can see what you're doing.
Can insurance company ask for our cost?
So it depends upon, well, are you a roofing contractor or are you a general contractor? Okay, so if you're a roofing contractor, I don't have the right to ask for all your stuff. Sure. Okay, if you are acting as a general contractor and you're adding 10 plus 10 or now 30 plus 30 as some of these crooks are doing, okay, that we're dealing with.
You see that?
Oh my God, Dimitri, yes.
30-30.
Yes, I've got one right now that was, I think,
like what kind of overhead do you have to charge 30%?
Yes, yeah, it is rampant right now, all right, in Texas. They're putting 25 plus 35, 30, 30. It's a real problem.
How do they justify it?
Because I cannot live on 10% overhead and 10% profit. I need more.
But the insurance company is not willing to pay even 10%.
Well, I'll pay 10 plus 10 on every job where the involvement of a general contractor is reasonably necessary. So here's the issue with this that you're getting at, okay? If you are a general contractor and you're just acting as a general, you're not a brick and mortar contractor, all right? Now I have a name for these guys. I call them paper contractors, right? These are just salesmen. Okay, and what they do is they sub it out as cheap as they can. They write up the biggest estimate they can, and it's not about 10 plus 10. It's about whatever they can get in the middle. So one contractor got really greedy about 8 years ago, all right, and a roof that was put on for $800,000, he submitted an Xactimate estimate for $2.6 million. All right, and he was going to make on that job where he's just a salesperson, he was going to make $1.8 million. That matter went to trial. And a federal judge wrote a decision in Texas that said in that situation, the best evidence of what it costs to put the roof on are the subcontractor invoices. So a contractor got greedy, a court called him out on it, wrote a decision now, and under Texas law, based on that decision, I have the right to ask for your subcontractor invoices. And I do it all the time. And I have a case that allows it, and here's what I say. Send me your subcontractor invoices. I'll add 10 plus 10 if the involvement of a general contractor is reasonably necessary, and we go home. But you know they're adding much more so they can win the storm on every claim.
The problem with that I see, with that argument, like let's say I'm a roofing company who brick and mortar, not paper contractor. So I do have office, I do have overhead, I have marketing expenses, I do everything right. There's many, so I do 10 million a year. My overhead is, 10%. My profit is 10% per year. So I make $1 million a year on $10 million business. Very common. By the way, very similar to insurance companies. If you look at, State Farm doing $60 billion a year business and they pocket 5.7, the same stuff. We make 60 million and we pocket 6 million, right? And that's what the insurance game too. So now when I personally hear argument about, well, you're not a general contractor, I'm like, well, I still have overhead. You explain to me how a roofing company is not entitled to overhead and profit, where a general contractor is. What's different about me?
Every roofing contractor is entitled to his overhead and profit, but the issue is his overhead and profit is baked into the Xactimate line items. Okay, the 10 plus 10 at the bottom of a bid is the general contractor. You and I both know that. So if you're a roofing contractor, your overhead and profit is baked into those line items.
But there's no such a thing as a roofing contractor. Nobody does just roofing. You have to do gutters. You have to do 500 other.
Okay, then if you are acting as a general contractor, all right, and the involvement of a general contractor is reasonably necessary, then it's okay to add those two line items at the bottom.
But insurance companies push it all the way. Like they always push it back. Like I actually was for 7 years here in Minnesota. I have general contractor license, I have roofing in my name, but I heard that argument all the time. Well, you're just roofing contractor. I'm not. Like I did have supplementer, in the house, like the guy with $100,000 a year salary, because I have to have someone to deal with that. To call, if you have 50 open files with insurance companies, that's a full-time job. It's a salary. And it's like, I don't need that person like for retail, but with insurance companies, someone have to do it. And then we always have a problem to get that 10 and 10.
Look, Dimitri, I understand that. I hear the frustrations all the time, okay? And all I can say is, look, you've chosen to work in this field, in this area, right? And if you don't like it, all right, then go just do retail work, is what I tell guys. But you're in this world. It doesn't make it right for my clients to be recalcitrant and difficult, okay? But there is a process. They are businesses. They have to make certain that they are good stewards to their company's money, all right? And so those worlds mix, they collide.
But they also have to be stewards to their customers.
They do, and that's the balance, that is. And I believe, and I truly believe this, that my commercial clients, for the most part, all right, do they make mistakes? Sometimes yes, but for the most part, they get it right. They do. Now, I don't represent the big guys in the residential area.
So you're not Allstate or State Farm?
I don't represent State Farm. I don't
Chubb,
represent
AIG.
Allstate. I'm sorry?
Chubb, AIG.
I represent Chubb, AIG, Lloyd's of London, Travelers, Hartford, all the big commercial carriers. I think they're the good guys. Yeah, and do we have disputes? Sure, we have disputes. But the bulk of the complaints I hear about, are they residential? Yeah, I hear that, which I come back to. If we could just agree upon a standard roof spec, we would solve so many problems.
By the way, I want to compliment something here, because State Farm is the largest insurance company in the world, essentially, right? Chubb, I would argue, is the best like, if you ask any contractor, what insurance would you get? Chubb. Yeah. Number one, Chubb. Everybody says like Chubb is awesome. Travelers comes out a lot too. As a good guys, I asked Steve Patrick what insurance he would have, and he's a great guy. He's like, I would get Travelers. So, but companies like Allstate and State Farm, being the largest, they set up trends. What they do affects everyone else, because people look, and the same happens in the roofing contracting world. Like, we look at the leaders, we'll look at the most profitable, the biggest, the loudest, and we'll learn from them. How do we let guys like Chubb lead the way? Why other insurance companies not learning from Chubb? Because Chubb don't have complaints. I'm sitting here, and every argument I make is probably comes from State Farm, where you represent Chubb, who are good guys.
Yeah, and I understand that, and who are the leaders in the industry? Do others follow? I hear that a lot. All I can do is hope, right, that the insurance companies will see what's fair and follow that model, and see who the ones that are doing things right and follow that model. I don't know what State Farm does. I don't know what Allstate does. I don't know what Farmers does. I don't represent them. I represent some small Texas insurers, residential insurers, and I can assure you this, they are not following what State Farm, Allstate, and Farmers does. They are following good practices. All right, they're coming to me saying, hey, Badger, we're having this issue with this or that. How do we fix it? They're not coming to me saying, hey, some big guy is screwing people over. We want to do that also. Okay, my clients don't do that.
And you mentioned earlier that your clients are hurting now because of the amount of litigations and law. Can we identify contractors' fraud? What is it that contractors are doing that your clients are hurting?
Yeah, the biggest issue that's affecting my residential insurer clients now are contractors who are signing up claims and knowing that because of their inflated number, it's not going to get resolved, and just flip it on the lawyers. And saying, okay, I will sit back now and wait for the lawyer to get me a bunch of money, and then I'll do the job then. Why don't you?
But they have to be confident in a lawyer's ability to win the case to do that.
Well, they have to be confident, that's right. Yep. But if you have an annuity of work and you're behind and you got plenty of work, and lots of these guys got plenty of work, it's easy for them just to say, okay, I'll dump it in the hands of a lawyer, or I'll give it to somebody and dump it in an appraisal, and I'll wait for to hopefully get more money down the road.
What kind of fraud do you see? Do you still see a lot of mechanical damage when contractors
every week someone sends me a video. I mean, I can show you videos of, I got one of a guy who came in recently pushing his thumb on a garage door to create hail damage right before the adjuster got there.
Really? You have a video of that?
I have a video of it.
Can I see it?
Taken by the adjuster. I'll send it to you. You can show it. Yeah, it was taken by the adjuster sitting in his car across the street waiting for the appointment, and the contractor was pushing his thumb in the garage door.
Wow. Unbelievable.
I got another one of a contractor walking on a roof, hitting the roof with a hammer before the adjuster got there. So does that happen? Yes. Do I believe they're one-offs?
Do you see a trend that is happening more or less now?
No, I don't see a trend with it.
But
it just happens.
It used to be a bigger problem, like in the bigger market. Like I know Chicago is guilty. Like there's so many contractors in Chicago who've been doing. Like I talked to owners, and they've been training people to do that. But I don't see that's happening anymore.
It's the whole dime spinning thing they call it, and where they put it on a broom and they spin the broom with a dime and it makes damage. It happens, Dimitri.
Never heard of.
Yeah, that's what it's called, dime spinning, and they change the coin depending upon the hail size. But I don't see that much of that. Okay, it goes on. We'll bust them once in a while. I don't see an epidemic of fraud there. The epidemic of fraud that I see is contractors submitting bogus estimates. That's the issue.
Got it.
I knew nothing about how beer was made. Deb and Jill taught me everything that goes into it. Really cool operation, what they've done. But they'll be brewing again this next week. This is where it begins, right here. So they take all those bags of stuff and they throw it in here, and it chops it up and sends it up the chute. Everything comes up this pipe in here and then gets dropped down into the first tank of the brewing station. High tech, everything's all highly computerized. And this is all here. It goes through the various stations of the brew process. And then when it's done, they take these fire hoses and they connect these, and the fire hose goes over here to one of the fermenting tanks, sits there until it's ready, and then the fire hose takes it over here, puts it in the chiller, it sits there, they carbonate it, and voila, they serve it right out of there. And that's serving Growler. Yeah, we'll have fundraisers now and then where people will come in and we'll raise a little extra money. When we expanded the canning line, some people came in, donated some money to help our cause. People just love this place. People come in, they fall in love with the place just because it's such a really nice family atmosphere. So they want to be involved with it. So these people donated some money to the company and the cause. And now when they come in, the first beer is always free, or little things like that. During COVID, people were so cool during COVID. We couldn't serve inside, obviously. So even the dead of winter in Minneapolis, people were outside drinking beer in the beer garden. We put fire pits out there.
It's Minnesota for you.
Yeah, well, people, it was a tough year, but people supported us.
Let's talk about mortgage checks frauds. Like I see, because to me personally, I don't want to defend contractors, but there's no victim here. So like, let's say you're a contractor and you got the check, you're looking at it, it says Wells Fargo, you got the job, everything is done, and let's say you sign it on your behalf or you created the stamp, 100% illegal, 100% bad, but there's no victim here. Mortgage company is not going to hurt, homeowner is not going to hurt, insurance company is not going to hurt. What are like potential circumstances for that contractor? What are the fines? What are he commits the fraud for sure, but
that is federal bank fraud. That's a really big deal.
So jail time for that?
Oh, absolutely. That is federal bank fraud. Right? You don't go to some local state court. You go to a federal court for that. And then you go to federal prison for that. Now,
for forging,
it's forgery. It's federal forgery.
Even if you don't have victim?
Yes. Now, is anyone ever going to prosecute it because you say it's a victimless crime? Probably not. But if you have that one case where the homeowner then gets mad at you because you did a crappy job on the roof or something happens, all right, and they want to hold you accountable for that, you could be in a lot of trouble. So I hear this about contractors who have stamps. They have fake stamps for all the mortgage companies to make it look like they're stamping them. Do it, God love you, but if you get caught, you're in a lot of trouble.
Have you ever seen anyone get prosecuted or get caught doing it and got in real trouble?
I've not seen federal prosecution. I've seen lawsuits between building owners and the contractors about disputes about the roof, and the homeowner says, I didn't sign that, or I talked to my bank and they didn't stamp that, and that's used as evidence in the lawsuit. Yeah,
so usually something have to happen, but if all goes well, usually, and that's I think how many get away with it. And I can be very sympathetic to the contractor because it's cash flow issues. It's like you get the check, you need that money, now you have to send it back and wait 3 weeks. It's hard, but I mean, wrong is wrong. What's going on right now in Florida and 76 bill? I'm pretty sure you have an opinion on it.
Yeah, so they reached out to me before the legislative session and said, hey, you guys did something similar in Texas. What's working, what's not working? I gave them our legislation, gave them our recommendations. They went and they enacted part of what we did and something else. And in my view, I admit there are some things in that legislation that I believe are probably overreaching. And part of it's already been declared unconstitutional. I think they're going to have to clean up that mess with that legislation. But
do you see it spreading across the country?
So here's what I see spreading across the country. I see things that are happening in Texas and Florida, that there's so many PAs and contractors and appraisers here, they're moving up to the Midwest. There is one guy in Texas who's been, I believe, not a very good actor in Texas, and because of all the heat he's facing here, I'm getting calls about him now from Missouri and Oklahoma. Yeah, so he's moved up north, and I see that happening. So yes, the trends that are happening in Texas and Florida, anywhere where it's hailing or there's wind, they know they're going there now.
Got it. Let's talk about UPPA laws and when contractor acts as a public adjuster and how bad that situation is.
So UPPA, right, has been a big deal for a long time. What I have seen now is a recognition by most contractors that it's okay for me to talk about my estimate, my scope of damage, and I can talk about that. I've seen insurance companies say, okay, I'm going to talk to the contractor about these issues. And most contractors now have realized that they cannot take over the claim and negotiate it. So I've seen a great improvement in that area. And in talking about deductibles, I've seen the improvement because the TDI came out with a number of cease and desist orders and fines to contractors saying you can't do this, here's a $1,500 fine, and it's gotten better. Yeah, so is there a role for the contractor in the claims process? Yes, it is to identify damage, come up with an estimate, explain it to the insurance company, but do not hijack the negotiation of the claim. If it needs to be done, give it to a public adjuster or a lawyer.
In Chicago, you can be public adjuster and contractor at the same time?
That's messed up.
Like, what do you think? Like,
We don't allow that in Texas. Right. We enacted a statute in Texas, the PA statute, years ago with the help of the PAs, and then we amended it in 2015 to make it very clear that you can be a contractor, or you can be a PA, or you can be both, but you can't do both on the same claim. And that just makes sense.
how do you combat your claims? I'm pretty sure you have in Illinois.
Yeah, I have some. I don't do a lot of work there. I have a Minneapolis office here. Obviously, my firm based out of here, and I've got lawyers from our Minneapolis office who do the Illinois work. When they send me a PA contract that's a 50% contingency fee, which is okay in Illinois, I just shake my head, because that is not intended to make Mrs. Smith whole, right? How is Mrs. Smith made whole when the PA's taken 50%? That's messed up. Yeah.
What are the bad advice that you see that online influencers give to contractor? You know, we have kind of rise of salespeople, like online coaching stuff. Name one or two bad advices that you see in this space.
Yeah, this whole concept of scaling your company really quickly, all right, I believe that leads to a lot of problems, okay? Or trying to win the storm on every claim, all right? You know, I respect Anthony and what he's done, but the name bothers me. Okay, so what I see that is bad advice is to try to get rich on every job. Right? There is so much money to be made here, right, by working within the confines of this industry you're dealing with. Okay, I've got guys who come up to me after Win the Storm and I speak, and they say, Badger, send me your jobs. I'll work for Xactimate pricing. Contrary to what John Houghtaling says, I don't go looking for guys. I don't try to take away jobs from contractors and give them to others. I've never done that. But when a contractor comes to me and says, I will work for Xactimate pricing, okay, because I can make enough money per job there and have a steady stream of work that I'm gonna make a good living, right? Yeah, am I gonna recommend those guys? I will, as long as they do a good job, right? They have to put on code compliant roofs. So the biggest issue I see is guys trying to get rich too quick.
Love it, and I agree with you. It's like winning the battle but losing the war. Yeah. You're in business not for one season, and so many try to scale for that one season, win that one storm, but they lose the business. Like, they file bankruptcy. They can't pay their supplier next year.
Dimitri, I've been doing this now, the Hail Crusade that I've been on, people call it, since 2012. And during those 9 years now, I have watched a lot of PAs come in and flame out and be gone. I've seen contractors come in, flame out and be gone, and I've seen lawyers come in and flame out and either be gone or be sent to prison for bad conduct. So those guys who have just done it wrong are gone. But I also see a lot of guys, lawyers, PAs, and contractors who said, okay, I'm gonna do things right, and I'm gonna in this for the long-term gain. And those guys are still there. I get along with them, I have a beer with them, all right? They don't end up on my radar. I refer work to them. And I'm friends with some of these lawyers because they're doing it the right way. They're not trying to rip off my clients. They're trying to make a reasonable profit. And most importantly, they're trying to help Mrs. Smith get her roof put back on. And that's what we all should be focusing on. And my insurance company clients need to do that as well. And when they don't, they should be held accountable.
What players we have way too many, and what players we don't have enough in the game?
Oh, that's a question I've never been asked before. That's a really good one. I think we need more legitimate umpires. Umpires, guys who understand construction and are true neutrals and are actually willing to evaluate both sides. They understand both sides and render a real decision. Okay, if we had a good group of real umpires who are not influenced by either side, but simply want to get to the right scientifically based answer, we need that. We need more good neutrals, and I don't know how we get that.
How do you become an umpire? Do you have to be a contractor?
Well, that's the problem. Anybody can be an umpire.
Can I be an umpire?
You can be an umpire. You'd be a great umpire, right? From what I've seen from you so far, all right, you understand both sides. You are a realist looking for solutions to problems. You would be a fantastic umpire. In fact, can I put your name up?
Next career. Absolutely, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Which players do we have too many?
We have too many paper contractors. These are guys who are not brick and mortar contractors who know how to put on roofs. They're guys who have gone to Win the Storm or Sky Diamonds or one of these conferences, and now they've paid their $800 and they've learned how to write an Xactimate estimate, and they're going out there selling roofs knowing nothing. Okay? My adjusters should be properly trained. These guys should be trained also. So we got all these paper contractors who are entrepreneurs, right? I mean, we hear everybody goes to these conferences and all these entrepreneur teachers are there teaching these guys how to, win the storm. We got too many of those. Okay, if you want to get in this business, all right, become a brick and mortar contractor, learn how to put on a roof at a fair price and how to do it right, and move forward. But if you're just out there selling jobs so you can make the maximum profit on every job, all right, we got too many of those guys. And there's no barrier to entry.
Love it. What technology do you see is missing or needs to develop? And I want to tie it to another question. Like when we see auto industry, we have companies like Abra, like anything related to cars. I would argue that we have technology in place to do what has been done in auto industry, in home insurance industry, because the arguments I see, like, we're not auto, like, because they have data, how much it takes to fix Mercedes or Honda. I would argue we should know how much to replace GF roof or F-wave roof. Like, but what technology is missing to get us to that point to become auto insurance restoration?
Yeah, and obviously Xactimate's intended to be that tool, and we all argue about that. But my technology issue is a little bit different. We need technology, and I know it exists. And I would encourage people to go look up a company called Halios, H-A-I-L-I-O-S. Okay, and these guys came to me right at the beginning of the pandemic, and they have a product that you can put on a roof, and it will tell you when it hailed and how big the hail was. It's a little panel, and it's connected to the cloud. So you could put 1,000 of these around Dallas, just sporadically, and we wouldn't have to rely upon $39 hail reports anymore. We actually have technology that tells us actually whether it hailed, when it hailed, and how big the hail was. And imagine all the disputes that we would eliminate if we had products like that.
How big is the company?
Company's new. It was a Lloyd's of London think tank program. They're a startup. They're really
Connect me to them. I'll review them.
Yeah, Halios. Yeah, let's talk about them. I went out to a lab in New Mexico and watched a guy shoot hail through a ballistics timer hail gun at their product, and then we compared that to actual real hail data, and it works. All right, their measurement that says this was 2-inch hail is actually consistent with what 2-inch hail does. And so that technology would eliminate so many disputes. Right?
Give one advice to your clients, to insurance companies.
Communicate. Communicate. Yeah, I hear a lot of complaints that I don't hear from the adjuster. I don't understand his position. All right, insurance companies should communicate. All right, so if I could get my insurance companies to all communicate well to Mrs. Smith, here's our position, give it to them timely, I think that would be a long way, or go a long way, to helping their customers realize that they are there, they are in good hands, and they're trying to help.
Love it. Can I get you a commitment to answer comments under this video, to come back later? Because I'm pretty sure people will comment. And if you can come back and just answer a few questions.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm not a Facebook guy, so I can't answer them, or YouTube or whatever. I don't
I'll send you the link. Guys, comment your questions to Steven Badger. If you have any questions about this interview or whatever we talked about, he will come. I'll send him the questions and I'll ask him to log in. You have Gmail?
I do.
That's it. Gmail, YouTube, it'll come from you. People will appreciate it. Comment away. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Dimitri, thank you. I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Awesome.